We benefited for many years from unusually low interest rates. And so we ran up all this debt at like teaser rates. And now what's happening is when the adjustment comes, like an adjustable mortgage, you suddenly you get hit in the face with big interest costs. That's exactly what's happening to us. And Tori, you mentioned that CRS report on foreign debt. They did quantify that interest on the debt paid to foreigners in 2023 was 197.5 billion. So roughly 200 billion going to finance debt that's coming in from abroad.
About 50,
Steve,
56.
what about what hit you about this report?
Well, not to pile on here, but this enormous interest expense that Tori's talking about, I would suggest is possibly optimistic, meaning that it may be even worse. Because if you look at CBO's long run assumptions, they have interest rates on government bonds, on short term bonds like 3-month treasury notes, treasury bills. That interest rate is going to fall, from close to 5% now down to 2.8%. And the interest rate on long-term bonds is going to fall from a little over 4 down to 4. So, if in fact the Fed is not successful in getting the inflation rate down to their 2% target, and if in fact financial markets are not satisfied with a 2% real return on long-term debt and a less than 1% return on short-term debt, if in fact interest rates turn out to be higher than CBO projects, the interest cost, the 13 trillion that Tori was pointing out, could be much higher. And that is in fact, my concern is that, we've lived through this period, the last couple of decades or decade and a half, of ultra low interest rates, and people simply got accustomed to interest rates that were virtually zero. I mean, the government was borrowing for almost nothing. Mortgages, 30-year mortgages were down to 3% in some cases for a while. And, somehow that became the new normal. But if you look across history, that in fact was a huge aberration. We've not seen interest rates that low for that long, ever. And, while CBO has rates going back somewhat toward the historical norms, I would argue that their long run assumptions are still below what we've seen historically. And if in fact rates, return to something approaching what we've seen in the past, and interest costs on the debt is going to be much, much worse.